Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's topic is Healthy Relationships Part 4. I don't want to miss a thing. And this one is written by our friend from Australia, Glenn. So this is the last in the series, Healthy Relationships. And all three of us have submitted a perspective on this wonderful topic of healthy relationships. And now it's Glenn's turn. So we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, as usual, I would like to introduce the rest of the panel. My name is Jason Cripps. My friends call me Cripps. You can call me Jace, Jason, Cripps, buddy, pal, friend, lifelong friend, whatever. Also with me on the panel, we have my wonderful wife, Jennifer. Jennifer, if you want to take a second and say hello, and how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. It's been a great, productive weekend, great day. Had a nice nap earlier. It was awesome. And just doing great. I'm glad to be here with such awesome people and awesome friends and family in the chat. Good to be here, guys.
Nappy. Hey, Jen, while other people are saying hello, it's doing that breakup thing. If you could check and make sure that, do that little adjustment that you do sometimes, that might be better. Just want to let you know. Thank you so much. Also, we have Marisa. Looks like she's going to go out and come back in. So Jennifer will be right back with us. Marisa, say hello to the peoples. And how are you doing?
Hello to the people. I'm doing fantastic. What a beautiful day. God is good every day. I had a fantastic day. Excited to be here and jump into Glenn's take on happy relationships.
I'm excited too. It's going to be great. I'm glad that you're doing well out there in Ohio. And the last day of July. It's been a hot one here. What's the weather like in your neck of the woods, Glenn from Australia?
It's been raining and it looks like it might fine up, and it's probably, what's Fahrenheit to do, 50, 45, 50 or something.
That's perfect for me.
It's winter.
50 to 60 degrees, that's the sweet spot for me.
Oh, crikey. Give me 85.
No. Well, it's been really humid here, and I helped my dad. My dad's a trim carpenter, and he had some work. And he's 75 years old. He's still at it, still putting in the baseboard and the doors and all that stuff. And I helped him out. You don't never know how long a person's going to live. 75, still working. So I went and helped him for a week and a half or so. And it was about to kill me. I'm glad it's over. And it's not the work, it's the weather. It's obviously there's no air conditioning in a new home being constructed, and it's just a lot. It's a lot. Now it was even bad for me in the summertime when I worked for him in my 20s, but at my age now, it just takes it out of you. But anyway. Glad everyone is here, and we're excited to get into the topic. But first, we have some people to say hello to in the chat. Jen, if you would take a moment and welcome everyone, please.
Absolutely. We've got Nez, our very own Marisa. House. That's another Nez peep. And Pammy Clyde. Is that another Nez peep? Pammy.
Yeah. So.
And that's who we've got so far.
Okie Grower and Pammy are Nez peeps. Thanks for coming, guys. I love
you. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, before we get started, please, if you haven't already, if you're listening to the playback, please go to Nez Lover's channel. My wife, Jennifer, yes, she is my wifey. I love that, Okie Grower. And they did a surprise broadcast, art and karaoke and fun and festivities all were had, and you might get a few laughs out of it as well if you go over there and watch the stream. It was very good. I laughed myself with some of the antics that went on. So do yourself a favor and go visit her channel, and there's lots of art streams for you to watch, but I'm biased to the ones where Jennifer's included, and so there you have it.
Nope.
Oops.
I was getting Nez's links. Share it.
There you go. There it is. She popped it into the chat. So click on that. Of course, after the broadcast, not during. Okay. All right. All right. So, healthy relationships, part 4. I don't want to miss a thing. Starts with a quote: music gives a soul to the universe, wings to the mind, flight to the imagination, and a life to everything. That's by Plato. Some songs translate beautifully to an orchestral version, and in my opinion, this is a wonderful example. I trust this version of the Aerosmith classic, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing by Epic Orchestra, gives you a moment to reflect and maybe even shed a tear or two. The link is in the description. I look forward to listening to it myself. Tonight, we speak about music, the music between people, regardless of whether they be family, friend, or lover. Whether it be conscious or subconscious, time spent with any person lends itself to an inevitable decision. The decision whether to connect with this person again, stay, or go. We all have pretty good idea about what constitutes a vibrant, healthy relationship on the one hand, to a toxic, abusive relationship on the other. But what about some other interactions, such as relationships that are not unhealthy as such, but are more transactional and convenient by nature, and relationships that are a mixture of healthy and unhealthy, but provide comfort and distraction from isolation and loneliness? Think of the all too common scenario where there's the I'm okay to forgo some things because I'm comfortable enough, and if I opt out, I might be worse off, compared with the I'm prepared to take a risk of loss because I don't want to miss a thing mindset. Along with other things, it is some very personal stay/go choices that we are examining tonight. We are in some respects like an item in a trading post. Think of a beautiful Native American silver bracelet. How much is it worth? Will you sell that piece to the highest offer from a person who will melt it down to make a profit, or to the one who offers you less but will nurture that piece, wear it with distinction, and lovingly put it in a drawer at night? Is life about money, or is it about the bracelet? Are not relationships based on the trade we make? Is it not? I offer you something, you offer me something, and we say yes, no, or I need to think about it. So to all here tonight, relationships wise, what have you got to offer to trade? Do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer? Okay, you make an offer and the trade is accepted. The bracelet is shiny. However, like all silver, it tarnishes over time. Your stay/go moments are in the wind. I can't live with this bracelet unless I keep polishing it to try to make it new again. No matter how much I polish this bracelet, it is not the same as when I bought it. I love this bracelet, whether it be tarnished or not. It needs no polish. What would I like to ask each person here tonight is, how do you or how would you cope with a relationship that is full of indifference towards the other person? In other words, it will be a wasted effort to buy a bottle of polish, let alone use it. Where's the point where you might say the comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing? Tough question, acknowledged. The hard part of this is that no therapy manual or YouTube expert can ever tell us what we might be missing, because to find out, we have to experience these things for ourselves. I digress for a short time. Recently, I heard firsthand from a Christian who sticks to the creed that being divorced for some reasons other than adultery leaves them unable to remarry until their ex-spouse dies. Not only that, if another offers them a silver bracelet, they have to say no to that bracelet, shiny or tarnish. Where is the life experience to come from when told, do not put any bracelet on the arm and don't even think about doing so? Okay, the predictable atheist thinks this is insanity with a capital I. I thought God was about love. End of story. But to each their own. Believers, what say you to this person? After that little sidetrack, we come to the icing on the cake. Is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because two people are healthy? We hear all the time, extricate from relationships that hurt us, but do we risk just as much being in a so-called healthy situation, but one that is devoid of symmetry and music? This leads to the question, by definition, does part of being a so-called healthy person include having a loving heart? Or to put it another way, can we be healthy but yet empty of love within ourselves? The truth is, as I see it, is that life's most musical moments tend to arise from situations where people find this sweet surrender spot within and cast aside their shackles. If you don't want to miss a thing, that means you must reveal who you really are. Adventure, risk, spontaneity, and freedom. Living is not always about being the healthiest person in town, you know. All right. All
Great
right.
write-up,
Well,
Glenn. Good job.
yeah. Well done. Well done. All right, guys. We have some of the questions are probably easier than others, but we'll put our thinking caps on and dive right into these questions. First, I'm going to check the chat, see if anyone new popped in while we're talking. No? Okay. Well, we'll try to say hello to anyone new that comes in, but thank you to everyone that has come so far. Sometimes I know that it's showing more people that are actually in the chat, which means people are listening, and that's okay. We welcome you. If you just want to sit back and relax and listen to the broadcast, that's great with us. If you're listening to the playback, thank you for coming. Please don't forget to leave a like, and if you like any of the content, please share. Thank you. All right. So, reading the paragraph before the questions again, we are in some respects like an item in a trading post. Think of a beautiful Native American silver bracelet. How much is it worth? Will you sell that piece to the highest offer from a person who will melt it down to make a profit? Or to the one who offers you less, but will nurture that piece, wear it with distinction, and lovingly put it in a drawer at night? So the first question is life about the money or is it about the bracelet? We'll start with Jennifer first, if you're ready, Jennifer.
Great question. Gosh.
Well, you married me, so the answer is...
it's not about the money. It's about that bracelet. Yeah, it's an interesting question because it makes, I was in the antiques business for quite a while.
Yeah.
And, there's something to say about the worth of something, but that it is connected to the piece itself.
Wow.
Like I think you're worth just more than anything, And say, hypothetically, if I could sell you to get a whole bunch of money or all the money in the world, I wouldn't do it. Because having you in my life is more important than the value I would get if I sold you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But I don't care for you and I'm not in a relationship with you because of that value.
Oh.
It's like there is value in you a lot. And that's one of the reasons I'm with you.
Sure.
But it's not based on like worldly stuff or how much I could get for you, if that makes sense.
Right.
So yeah, it's a tricky question.
That's a
But
good question.
yeah, definitely not with you for money.
No. I would love it if there was more money to you for you not to care about having. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's not my focus.
No, I know it's not. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. That's for sure.
Nope.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And we're gonna go ladies first. It's a lady's choice tonight. Is life about the money or is it about the bracelet, Marisa? What do you think?
The love of money is the root of all evil. So I'm going to say it's not about the money.
Excellent. That's the answer we're looking for. Tell her what she's won. All right. All right. We'll go with Glenn. I'll go last on this one. Glenn, is life about the money or is it about the bracelet? What do you say, sir? Okay. He's muted. He might have gotten called away or something. All right. I will go and see if he comes back. All right. So of course I'm going to answer that's not about the money. I say of course because I have had times in my life where I've had more money and times when I've had less. Never been a millionaire. Won't likely ever be one. I mean, I don't can't foresee the future. But I have definitely learned I've never been a terribly materialistic person. Uh, I think that when I first started working, I just worked to get money to go places with my friends, go to movies and hang out and stuff like that. I basically just made that's why I worked a job. I wasn't trying to make it in life or wasn't trying to build some great dynasty for myself. It's never been terribly interesting to me. Money is something obviously that you need to live in this world. There are some people that go bare bones out in the woods and build a cabin and all that, but they still, unless they can just totally live off the land, there needs to be some money. I think a few people get by, but I'm way too pampered to live like that. So yeah, hence having to go to work. What's more important to me definitely is the bracelet. And using Jen for an example, fair is fair. It's a bracelet of great price that she is to me, and I also would not sell her for any money that I would be able to make from the value that it would bring. The beauty, the value, the don't want to miss a thing of the relationship is in the relationship and who she is as a person and her love toward me. And I know that's sappy for some listeners, but that's the way that it is. So definitely for me, the bracelet. So thank you. Glenn, are you back?
Yeah. Sorry about that. I've got a lot going on in the background here today.
I understand. We understand. So is life about the money or is it about the bracelet?
Oh, man. That's about the bracelet. I remember Sandra and I, the first house we built, it was built on all these timber posts. Or it was up on a hill out in the outskirts of Brisbane and on a all full of trees and stuff. And we had to sell it because Sandra wanted to retire.
Wow.
Yeah, I said, well, you can have the house, dear, or you can have if you retire, you can't have the house. Anyway,
Right.
we had it was advertised. It was made the front cover of a newspaper and everything. It was a really good house we designed. Anyway, the bottom line was people were coming through like so many people to look at it. It was pretty unique. And one of the people that was going to buy it said, oh, we'll have to put curtains on it and do this and do that. And Son and I looked at each other, what on earth are people going to do? This is a house that's built to look out.
Yeah.
Look out with over and just embrace nature. And so we said, so they made an offer and we said, we're not selling it. We're not going to sell it to them.
Wow.
We just put our foot down and said no.
Wow.
We waited for someone to come along who wanted it, who was going to treat it like had the vision that we had when we built it. So that's how it works. So definitely the bracelet. Thank you.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. I mean, it's like a real example of what you're trying to say in the write-up. I think that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'll have to ask you more questions about that later. I'm very interested to see the pictures. You said it made it on a magazine?
They have a big real estate magazine. It was on the front cover.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, it shows what you put your value in.
Absolutely.
I don't think everyone would do that. I think a lot of people, when they sell a house, they don't care who buys it. They're just trying to get the money for it. I'm not saying there's not anyone like you that wouldn't want to sell it to someone that was going to mess it up, but I would say it's pretty rare. Just my opinion. Thank you, Glenn. All right. Next question is, are not relationships based on the trade we make? Wait, did I go? Yeah, I did. Are not relationships based on the trade we make? Is it not, I offer you something, you offer me something, and we say yes, no, or I need to think about it? Are not relationships based on the trade we make? I'll go first. Yes. It is a trade. Now, it seems a little difficult to describe what that means. Relationships are a trade. Okay, in terms of talking about the bracelet, I don't feel, having been married before, I don't feel like I'm trading anything. I feel like being married and being in this relationship. I mean, the write-up refers to other relationships as well. So in other relationships, maybe I would trade a few things, but there are questions that will address that later. So just on this particular question, yes, they're based on a trade we make. Is it not? I offer you something, you offer me something, and we say yes. I definitely say yes, and I offer everything. I try to be completely open and transparent and honest, and hold nothing back. No lies, no secrets, no hidden agendas, nothing. That's what I offer. I offer me, nothing more than me. And my expectations are the same. That's it. And I feel like that has worked very well. So I'm not sure I answered this question appropriately, but that's my answer. And it's wonderful to have relationships where I don't feel like I'm missing a thing or trading anything away. I get to fully be myself and enjoy someone else who's doing that as well. So that's my answer. Marisa, how about you answering this one? It's are not relationships based on the trade we make? Is it not? I offer you something, you offer me something, and we say yes, no, or I need to think about it.
That's exactly what a relationship is. It's give and take and finding value in yourself and the other person, whatever kind of relationship that is. And there's things you can offer to the other person, whether it's your time or any other things that you do. Some people are really good at cooking or cleaning or repairing things. I mean, the list is endless, but if you're giving of yourself, that's what you have to offer the other person. And hopefully the other person in the relationship will be coming from a place of love and offering the best of what they have to offer as well.
Agreed.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Marisa. How about you, Jennifer? Do I need to read the question again, or you?
No, I'm good. I agree with both of you guys. That's this kind of made me start thinking about some of my past relationships and friendships.
Yeah.
Because I didn't treat it as a trade. I just gave sort of unthinkingly.
Right.
And I ended up attracting a lot of people that were takers. And they weren't really givers, so it was very lopsided. But at that time in my life, I was, I didn't look at it like this, like a trade. I mean, of course, I think I wanted it to be a trade. I desired that, for it to be give and take. But it just goes back to self-worth and self-esteem was just so low that I was willing to settle for being with people that were takers and me giving. So they weren't very healthy. But I definitely agree. I think it is, especially what Marisa said, it was beautifully said, that you're bringing yourself and you give of the things that your talents and your time and your ears listening and conversation, and hopefully the person that's joining you in that relationship or friendship is doing the same, being themselves and sharing all the things that they bring of value to the friendship or relationship as well.
Right.
It's a give and take for sure.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. So before we get to Glenn, I just want to ask a follow-up question. So given how you came into relationships back then, and given recent events and how you have proved that there's a change in the way that you accept or not accept friendships, do you feel like you've progressed in that area and that you're in a different place now?
Absolutely. So it's still coming from a place of wanting to give my all, to friendships and relationships.
Right.
But, I went through a shift, like last year, I had this sort of epiphany about the beginning of my life. I always wanted to be chosen. by someone, whether it was friends or romantic relationships. And I didn't factor myself in that equation, that I could choose not to be friends with someone or to be friends with someone. Like, it was just the side of wanting to be chosen. And so anyone that came along, I was just so grateful that they wanted to be friends with me, that I just accepted lock, stock, and barrel instead of kind of assessing things or making
Right.
sure it was healthy, or, a give and take, a trade. So that really set me up. But yeah, I've definitely grown in that area, which is very good. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, it's very nice to look at that from the outside and see the progression and see people come into your lives, and you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you kind of put one toe in the water, and fully giving of yourself. I don't mean that you're holding back, but reserving your decision on this idea of, is it not, I offer you something, you offer me something, and we say yes, no, or I need to think about it. And sometimes the answer is no.
Mhm.
And you're able to see that and make that decision. I just before, again, we're going to get to Glenn in just a second. I just wanted to add, because Jen, your answer was great, and it made me think of something else. In thinking of my first marriage, I traded away some things that I didn't want to trade. And I won't take up a bunch of time giving examples. Just know that I did trade some things away, some expectations, and some things that I didn't have in that marriage, so-called, that I have now, without compromising anything. So that's a wonderful thing, and I'm so pleased that that's the case. I don't want to miss a thing, and I don't have to miss a thing. And I would say the same thing to anyone out there. You don't have to live like that. What do you say, Glenn?
I pose this more in the form of a question. If you feel you have to trade yourself down, is that then possible to ever have a healthy relationship? And I'm going to say I don't think so.
Well, using myself for an example, which I'm happy to do, the answer to that would have been no. It didn't last. It didn't work out. It didn't satisfy. It didn't bring me joy or peace. So for me, it was no. So I just answered that I had to trade away some things that were important to me, and it didn't work. So,
I know for me, every time I've traded down, it's fallen to pieces.
right.
It never. It might last for a while,
Yeah.
and you
Sure.
sort of think I can power through this, but ultimately it just seems to come to a natural conclusion, and it
Yeah.
falls through the
Wow.
floor.
Wow.
Hopefully you can do it with some dignity, but sometimes, as you know, things can get acrimonious.
Sure. I think I got lucky in that aspect, that in the leaving of the first marriage, it was handled well. I think on her end, it was handled well, because she just wanted to get out of it, and she didn't want to draw things out, and I'm grateful for that. And I wanted to leave with integrity. If I was going to be forced out, I wanted to do it in a way that I could sleep at night and know that I did everything I could, and that's the way it happened. So there we
So,
go.
Cripps, a quick one. How easy is it, do you think, in general, for people to say no when they get made an offer?
I
It might not be what they want, but is no really that difficult, or maybe it is?
I
don't
think
know.
I think it is. That's a great question. I think it is for a lot of people. Now, of course, it does depend on what we're talking about. But for relationships, I think it's difficult to tell someone no. Like, if you're dating someone, let's say you go out on 3 or 4 dates, to give them, some time to see what they're really about, instead of just deciding on one date. Let's say it's down the road just a little bit, and they're saying, hey, I think there's something here. What do you think? And you think in your mind and go over everything that's happened up until that point, and you decide that, this isn't really for me. I don't think it's going to work out. To say no to that person, I think it's difficult. I would like to ask everyone else that question. What do you guys think of Glenn's addition? Is it hard for people to say no? Marisa, what do you say? Is it hard for people to say no? What about for you?
Well, speaking for me, if the choice is, if I'm being offered something that I want, I always have to weigh that with, is that something I need? Because let's face it, as imperfect human beings, sometimes we want things that we really don't need. And, the grown up adult thing that we're all told is to, say no if it's something we don't really need or we shouldn't
Right.
have or whatever. So it can be very hard to say no
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Just because your heart cares for somebody does not,
Right.
in my opinion, make that something that has to be.
Right.
So, yeah,
Excellent.
saying no can hurt sometimes.
Thank you, Marisa. Jen, I think this is the perfect question for you. Is it hard for people to say no? What do you think?
Yeah. I think sometimes people sort of ghost you
Yeah.
at times. I've done that in the past. I'm not too proud of it, but part of that is the difficulty and just letting someone, it's just not a good fit. And of course, I'm always concerned about how they're going to take that. If they're going to get mad or if they're going
Yeah.
to think there's something wrong with them.
Right.
It reminds me of that whole phrase when you're dating somebody, like, it's not you, it's me.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yikes. So that is difficult. I'd love to be in a place where I felt comfortable enough to let someone know, hey, you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
It's just not a great fit. And it was nice to meet you,
Yeah.
but it's, it's a little bit harder.
It's a little bit harder.
But again, it plays into that whole position of we're not responsible for other people's feelings, we're responsible for ourselves. And if they react badly to that, that's on them, kind of a thing, as long as you do it with integrity and respect. But yeah, it is difficult for me, at least, speaking for myself.
I would agree. Thank you, Jen. Appreciate that answer. Okay. The dude saved us, hopped in the chat while we were carrying on that conversation, and I put his comment up to this question. The dude says, tough question to answer. How do I get into relationships now differently than I used to? Hard to answer because I'm not the same dude today choosing a relationship, and I'm not codependent anymore. Well, good for you, the dude. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right. And all right, we're going to go on to the next one. Let me read this first. The dude continues. He says, I have no problem saying no to things that lead to being put in a position to please someone by saying yes. But it's real hard to say no when I see someone with legit need. Wow. All right. Yeah.
Did Glenn answer his own follow-up question? I'd like to hear his response.
Yeah, sure. So I thought he did, but Glenn, did you answer the question from your perspective? Do you think it's hard for people to say no, and is it hard for you to say no?
I think I agree with the dude. With the last comment. I think I think maybe it's a natural inclination when we do try to please people, and sometimes we'll say yes when we mean no. So I think it can be difficult. I think I'm much clearer nowadays about what I will say yes to. I think the more confidence you get, and the more aware you get, I think that no, it is really something that really comes to your mind pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think you enact it out fast, but you do it not by leading. No means not. Don't lead somebody on. Tell them the truth. None of the BS that goes on, where you feel guilty about saying no. Just get it out and just be truthful for sure.
Sure.
Okay, Jen said, would you distance yourself or would you be direct and tell the person that it's not a good fit? Okay, I had this. That's a very good question, Jen. I had this conversation with Sandra the other day when we were discussing the write-up, and I said, well, she's had quite a few boyfriends, and I said, well, how'd you do it? She said, I basically just made myself unavailable, and I said, well, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I said, I'd rather front up
Yeah.
and just be honest and say, look, this is just not working for me.
Yeah.
And I don't like hiding, so Sandra and I have a different approach in that one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, when Jennifer was talking, she said that, it's kind of it's not you, it's me. She brought that up. And I think sometimes, yeah, there are toxic people out there. It seems like it'd be a little bit easier, but what if it's just like Jen was saying, what if it's just like, the other person, you just don't think it's going to work out. It's not that they're a horrible person, and not a horrible man or a woman and all that. It's just you don't see yourself with that person. There's just something about the relationship that you think is not going to be a good trade, right? So still, I think it's hard to say. I think for some people it's harder. Other people, it's much, much easier. I'll just give a quick example here. Now, this isn't a romantic relationship. Obviously, this is my dad, but I had mentioned at the top of the broadcast that I went and worked for him for a week and a half or so. And this has been a constant struggle for me my whole life, because when I started working for him, it's not really what I wanted to do, but it was a trade. And at that time, I thought, well, maybe when he retires, he'll pass the business along to me and I can make a living doing that. So initially, in being 18, 19, 20, into my early 20s, I gave it all I got. I learned how to do the trade, and on and off, I've worked in that business for probably 25 years or so. But I came to realize in the relationship with my dad and the working relationship that he was never going to retire. And he didn't. There are a couple times I came up with the idea of, if I go out and get jobs for you, would you consider making me a partner? And he did. He says, well, you'd have to know how to do it, and I haven't really taught you anything about it. And he had no interest in teaching me that. So the point I'm getting to is that over time I had less interest because it wasn't going to be a career for me. It wasn't going to be any viable option down the road. And it was so difficult to work with him. He's just does things a certain way, and he has softened a little bit in his old age, so it's a little bit easier to work for him now. But there were times that he would ask me to work, and I didn't want to do it, but I would always do it because, as you've heard me talk about before, being the black sheep of the family, as I got older, I wanted to prove that I wasn't who everyone thought I was, or at least my perception of the way they saw me. So a lot of times I would say yes when I wanted to say no. I would put other things off that were more important to me to do this thing, to do the work. And here about a year or two, it might have been 2 years ago, he'd asked me, his work has slowed down as he slowed down. But he had asked me to work. And the hardest thing for me to do is if it's something new that I haven't done before. And that was the case here. We were doing like a inside porch area, like a lounge type area on the outside of the house, an enclosed, I can't think of the word to call it, but like a, I guess, inside porch area. And he asked me, we were putting cedar slats, and I'd done that a few times, but this is a little bit different. They went all the way up to the ceiling, and scaffold and all of that. And I get an anxiety when that happens because my dad is not a great teacher because he doesn't have any patience, and he expects the other person to know what he knows and to pick up on as quickly as he would because he has a mechanical mind, which I do not have. I can learn. I can learn. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it 25 years. But it's hard for me learning something new. So Jen will remember this. I had been overcome by this incredible anxiety of, because of the kind of work that it was. And, oh my gosh, I didn't want to deal with his attitude. And I was just at the end of realizing about the proving, and I was trying not to do that. But we needed the money. That's always been the case. We've needed the money. And so I agreed to do it. And I got through it. It was okay. But I fast forward to this past week and a half, and I decided to go ahead and do it. We still need the money, but I wasn't making a decision from proving. And it was a much better experience for me. He hasn't changed. I mean, like I said, he has softened with age, but he hasn't changed who he is. I change how I look at the situation. And if I can do it without compromising myself, then it's easier for me to say yes. But it has been historically very difficult for me to say no. That's a perfect example of where in the past I would say no. I have said no to him, and it didn't go over very well. It would almost have been better for me to say yes, but I have done that, and it was hard. It was hard for me because of the situation where other people might ask me to do something. I just don't want to do it, and it's easier for me to say no. So I know that went on a little long, but I feel like it made the point pretty well. I'm going to let Marisa say who came into the chat because I have trouble saying it, and I will get it someday, but preliminal.
Hi, preliminal. For 3 years, I used to say preliminal, but it's my friend Patrick. Hi. Thanks for coming.
I think I was close. Thank you, Marisa. I was close. The dude saved us says I was scapegoat / black sheep and once delivered of codependency by Christ in me. I set out to be even more disliked by a flying monkey family because I want them to never accept me because then I'd be like them. Wow, you're full of wisdom, in my opinion, tonight. Well, and other nights too, but just you're really striking on some good stuff there. So you and I could probably get together and go bowling and have some good conversations about being the scapegoat / black sheep for sure, and also coming out of codependency. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Okay. Did everyone answer the secondary question? I think they did. Okay. All right. Moving on. The next question is, do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer? Wait, did I skip one?
I don't think so.
No, I did skip one.
No,
Sorry.
you did.
Okay. So to all here tonight, relationships wise, what have you got to offer to trade? Jen, what do you have to offer to trade?
Authenticity, and a person who has grown, is growing, and wants to continue to grow. And yeah, I think just being open and authentic and flawed in some areas still, but working on it.
What areas?
Oh, geez. People pleasing. I'm still working that stuff out of me. God's definitely working on me. But yeah, just being an authentic person and open, and being a listener and wanting to help other people.
Yeah,
definitely.
Great. Thank you. What about you, Glenn? What do you have to offer to trade?
Me?
Yeah, you.
That's it. It's pretty easy, isn't it?
Oh, you. Gotcha. Me. Gotcha.
That's it. Even if I am over the hill, almost.
Well, I think you have a lot to offer in a relationship. Of course, like Jen said, there are flaws in my opinion, but we all have flaws.
Well, thanks, Crips.
Sure.
I'll unvalidate you later in the program.
Okay, good. I look forward to it. Marisa, what about you? What have you got to offer to trade?
I've got to agree with Glenn. I've got me. Yeah, we can break it down into things that I'm good at, things that people like about my particular personality, but it's all in the same package. It's being willing to give myself, willingness to forgive, and certainly a lot of love. I mean, even people that I don't get along with anymore, that doesn't mean I don't stop caring about them.
Right.
So I agree with Glenn. I got me.
Perfect. Thank you, Marisa. I'm just going to say a quick hello to Janet, and I posted what she just said in there in the chat. Glenn is the best question man. Question man. Yes, he is the best question man. I've talked about this before, but we have new listeners. So when Glenn and I really started to have a relationship a few years ago, back in 2017, when my mom died, when we started talking more, and then certainly when Jen came into the picture and the friendship, he was asking her questions. And when he's asking someone else questions, I'm like, yeah, cool. That's a good question. But I started to learn his pattern for asking questions. There is a pattern. You can see it if you're paying attention. And sometimes it'd be like, well, you already asked this question. But it didn't irritate me because he was asking someone else. But when he would do that to me, it was extremely frustrating because I already answered the question. But he would keep asking because apparently, I don't know, he'd have to say why he would keep asking, but I would assume that he wanted me to dig deeper. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the digging deeper now. So now I have a completely different reaction. But he is a good question man. He absolutely is. And my mother was a good question woman as well. And I can definitely do it. But I don't know, call it people pleasing or codependency, but I don't want to annoy anyone else like I'm annoyed. But when it comes to really getting down to the questions, you have to learn how to figure out what the best questions are to ask. And Glenn's a good teacher in that area. Okay. Anyone else want to comment on Glenn the Question Man?
I'll comment. I could sense your frustration, Cripps. I could hear you almost banging the table. I thought, just don't let him off the hook. Your mother wouldn't have let anyone off the hook, so why should I do that?
Oh no, she would know. Oh my gosh, and that's where it came from. I wasn't really irritated with you. I was irritated because it was what my mom did. She would keep on me about stuff. She wouldn't let it go. She might let it go for that moment, and then the next day, here we go back until she got the answer she was looking for. It was maddening.
That made me laugh. I have to agree with you, but maybe some of that rubbed off on me. Yeah, probably
could be. But I'll say this though. I would do anything to have her question me. To be here to do that, and not to get sad sappy here, but I just wish that she had gotten to meet Jennifer because I watched Jennifer answer your questions and she didn't seem to be annoyed by it. She would just,
I was delighted by it.
Right. So I think when I think about how Jennifer would have gotten along with my mother and I think about the questions, I was like, oh gosh, that'd be hard. But I think that she would have handled it just fine. And my mom would have been delighted by that, I think, internally. So,
Chris, Jen, I was very surprised how Jen took it, the stuff that I heaped on her.
Yeah.
You want to know why?
Because I thought you would be falling to pieces, everyone falls to pieces at times. Yeah. But I thought you would really not cope with it. That's my truth. I mean, I was amazed that you didn't just fall into a black hole and couldn't take it, but you did take it. Take my hat off to you.
You want to know why? I think it was because I had spent the last 13 years with asking me questions. And I would ask myself questions in my head. God and I had a lot of quiet time in my mind and heart. But I enjoy dialogue and asking questions and people asking me questions. And I think I felt I was stuck in this place where I was invisible. And so for someone to come along and ask deep questions, I felt my soul come alive. Like it just was such a wonderful experience. And it was delightful and it was hard. I mean, there were a lot of moments, as you know, Glenn, it was really difficult. But I like when people challenge me and I like when I'm, I've had counselors, I think I've talked about before here on the show where they'll ask me, instead of like leading me to something or telling me how I should feel or whatnot. I had a counselor that would ask me these really in-depth questions, and I could feel my brain kind of worrying and the cobs, casting off,
Yeah.
and having my own epiphanies through the questions, through mulling over and through answering them. And it
Yeah.
almost is like a self-discovery in a sense. And that's how you are, Glenn, just on steroids. Like, the counselor that I had was good in many ways, and some ways lacking, I think. But with Glenn, it just was, he asked me questions that I just never thought to ask myself. And so my mind was constantly being blown in a good
Yeah.
way, in a really good way. So your questions are a little addictive, Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn's a drug.
I remember your mum said to me, because we used to discuss in general terms her cases with clients and stuff.
Yeah.
Just the dynamics of certain things, and she'd say, never give advice. All you need to do is ask the right questions for people to come to their own answers.
Right.
And respond. Don't
Right.
tell anyone.
Right.
Just get them to find it for themselves.
Yeah.
I think that was a huge piece of advice, so to speak.
Yeah. Agreed.
It made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, guys. Before I answer, from my perspective, I want to say hello to Debbie, who popped in. Also, Janet's been in here for a little bit. I need to say hello to her. And also our friend Nathan from Kiwi Land, or I think that's right. It's close to Glenn's side of the world. Lives in New Zealand somewhere. And we welcome all of you. We're glad that you're here. And please enjoy yourself, and please comment in the chat. We'd love to share your perspectives or answers to any of these questions. So thank you, everyone, for showing up. We appreciate you very much. And we're into the double digits for a second here. So that's good. Thank you. Okay. Did everyone answer that last question? So relationships wise, what have you, me, I didn't answer. I like what everyone else said, and it was kind of in my answer earlier, but I'll expound on it a little bit. I offer all of me, nothing hidden, no agenda, no secrets, no nothing. And Jen can attest to that. You don't have to take my word for it. I have shared with her when we were friends. I shared a lot of things about myself, about my past, things that I had done, things I hadn't done, and everything is open. As Jen said, authenticity, honesty, just right. Everything is on the table there. And I know it's hard for some people to believe no secrets, because it seems like it's an accepted thing. Like in TV and movies and stuff, there's this big deal about, he looked at my phone. Well, your phone shouldn't have anything on it you don't want your spouse to see, or your computer or anything. Back before we had computers, I knew it was a big deal if you go into a woman's purse, and sure, if they're not your wife, you shouldn't be going into their purse, or your girlfriend. Like me going into my mom's purse. She had all kinds of stuff in there that was good. She had like gum and I didn't steal money from her or anything, but she always had gum and mints and stuff in there. So a lot of times I would just, go rifling around in there, and she would just slap me on the hand and say, "Get out of my purse." I think that was unfair. Could be abuse of some sort. I think that she did to me, but the point is that in relationships, in my opinion, everything should be open, and that's the way I choose to live. So you get all of me, whatever that is, and without holding back. And it's interesting. I'll make a biblical point here. That's what God wants from us. He wants us to acknowledge Him in everything, and He will make our path straight. Some versions say He'll direct our path. But yeah, all our ways. And so I think that's a good example for relationships. We acknowledge the other person, and we give them access to every part of us. Jen and I used to say it's a backstage pass to every area, where I think I think in some ways, and it hasn't always been that way in relationships. I would offer most, even in my relationship with God. I've shared this with Jen that um, I looked at my relationship with God as us living in my house, and I would give him access. You know, it's silly to think like that because he could have access to anything, but he does not do that, in my opinion. And I had given access to everything except a little closet in the basement where I kept things that I wanted to compartmentalize and attitudes and things like that that I knew weren't befitting a person that claims to be a believer. But some of that was just part of maturing, and those things fell off. And as he continues to teach me how to walk in the Spirit instead of my flesh, but so everything is open now, and that's the way I choose to have relationships. So there we go.
Chris, a quick one. I wrote in chat, if I feel the need to check on someone, why would I be there at all? That is exactly my point.
Can you
No,
explain?
I agree. I'm not talking about needing to check on someone. I'm saying from the perspective of if you are holding back things from the person that you're with, you're not offering them everything then. I'm saying you should be able to give them access. I mean, I get your point. It's not, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm saying that there should be an openness on, in my opinion, in a relationship, there should be full openness. You shouldn't keep someone away from your phone or put passwords on your computer. Just my opinion.
I agree, but it's sort of, I'm not sure which comes first, the cart or the horse. I mean, from my point of view, I would never feel like I'd even think of that. Why would I think of having to go into something like it's just a bit weird. Okay, I'm trying to relate. No. I just said to Sandra, look, anything I do, it's open book. I say to everybody, it's open book. You can come read anything I write. It's just, but she wouldn't bother. That's the thing. Neither would I.
Right. I gave a couple of examples because that's what I have seen happen in relationships. Like there's these conversations that people have about, oh, well, you know, you looked at my phone. In fact, there's a funny thing on YouTube of a married couple, and the son is in there in the kitchen, and the son distracts the mother, and the husband grabs her phone and is rifling through the phone, and then you know the woman is done being distracted, and so the son's like and it falls on the ground and makes another distraction. So the father has time to put the phone back down. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that we live in a world where people keep secrets. And so for me, it's about being open, and your point is just as valid. You know, you shouldn't need to want to get into your spouse's pocketbook or have any need to look at their phone. I agree with you. I'm just saying there doesn't need to be a cart or horse for me. It's just being open for me. I don't need to even worry about that. And I haven't ever thought to check Jen's phone or you know, ask her what she's writing in her diary or anything. She is open. It's laying out on the coffee table, and I would assume that if it wasn't laying out on the coffee table, then she wouldn't want me to read it. But so she treats it the same way. Anyone else want to comment on that?
Oh, yeah, okay. When Glenn said about the cart before the horse, I was saying in the chat about feeling like you need to check on someone. It's like, is it coming from an insecurity?
Yeah.
Or is it coming from the person showing signs of deceptiveness?
Ooh.
Could be both. Could be. I mean, you could be seeing your spouse or friend or whatever doing things that make you think, are they up to something? Like, what's going on? And then the insecurity kicks in, or it could start from the insecurity, and you're checking when there's nothing there. I mean, you've heard stories of that where there's nothing going on, but the person's insecurity is causing them to check behind them.
But why check behind them and not front them and say, look, I'm feeling uneasy about this. Can I'm just feeling something's not right here. Why not have a conversation rather than sneaking into the the person pulling out the phone. There
Yeah.
are more than one option.
Exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, just
Well-
straight up asking. And I think there have been some people that have done that. Now, I've heard stories of when the person's direct and they ask them outright, the person gets better at hiding things if they are up
Yeah.
to something. So sometimes people don't want to be direct because they're wanting the truth, and maybe who they're with wouldn't be forthcoming.
Right.
But then again, why are you with that person? So
Right.
That's
Well-
exactly right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Jen and I just saw a perfect example of this. We watched the show House. Both of us have seen it as individuals, but we were watching the whole series together, and I love it. But one of the most recent episodes was on this very topic. They had one of the doctors, Taub, had cheated on his wife, and they got through it, and they got back together. And this is the situation that he found, that she had received a call and went into the bathroom and took the call in the bathroom when they were in the same room. So because of his, as Jen was saying, is it insecurity? It could be both. For him, it was both. It was insecurity. And he thought that she was having an affair. He left work to follow her. She'd made an appointment at a hotel for some reason. And he left work to go spy on her and see if she was having an affair. She wasn't having an affair, but then they had this conversation about it. And then he ended up, she had an emotional relationship with someone in a group that was support for people who have been cheated on. And so that's what she was doing. She was having an emotional affair with a person from this group, and he couldn't handle it. So for him, it was suspicion. It was his own guilt from the affair that he had, and they ended up deciding that it wasn't going to work out. And so Glenn's point is right there for us. If he saw that behavior, for instance, she accepted the call in the bathroom, the best thing for him to have done was just say, "Hey, it seems kind of weird that you would answer the phone in the bathroom. What's going on?" I think it's okay to ask.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that you expect there's to be some nefarious goings on. Just asking for clarification. I feel like that's coming to the table as well. If you just are asking for clarification, I think that's fine. But that's not the way he handled it. Missed a half a day's work by being a super sleuth, trying to catch her in the act of having some kind of affair, and she was having an emotional affair, and so there wasn't trust in that relationship. I've heard stories of people who have been cheated on, and they work through it. They go to counseling, they do whatever they need to do, and it makes their relationship better. But a lot of times the secrecy, the cheating, and then the guilt and the anger that comes from either person after something like that happens, very difficult to overcome. So, great stuff. All right. We'll go to you, Jen, first, because you were going to answer this question when I read it out of turn. So the next one is, did everyone answer? I think everyone did answer that. Okay. Do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer, Jen?
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not for me. Definitely not. I expect, I don't want to say the same amount, but I expect people to be open as I'm open, and accepting as I'm accepting, and that kind of thing, with the realization that a lot of people aren't super comfortable with it. And I've driven off people from friendships by being too open, not like, sharing, too much information,
No.
personally, but just being so open. I think it can be scary to some people. They're like, whoa, because I think they probably saw in me that I had an expectation of them being open in return. And we're like, I don't want to do that. Run away.
Well, that happened to you recently. If you care to, when we first moved in here, you had a relationship with someone from work, and they even came over for dinner, and she decided that, I believe she said that you were deeper than her and she wasn't capable of doing that. So I believe that's the reason why she she left off. But do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I don't think it was the greatest fit, and
Right.
maybe it might have been a little challenging for her in some ways that she wasn't ready to be challenged, or I think there was some depth, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, guys, but
Mhm.
I just think I tend to, lean toward deeper conversations, and
Mhm.
and I was careful about not talking too much about God, because she had mixed feelings about that and just wasn't on that same page. Not saying better or worse, just we were on the same page. And she just kind of like disappeared, and I was okay with that. I kind of felt like it was probably going to happen.
Mhm.
And I think it was for the best, and I still care about her and her son, and pray for her often, and even hear if she wants to try again at some point.
Yeah.
But just recognizing that it's just not a great fit right now. Might
Right.
not ever be,
Right.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jen. I just thought that
Yeah.
was worth talking about. It fits right in that category. I want to say a quick hello to the Light of Christ. Welcome. And that's our friend from over there at the channel that Renee and Brother Luke, I don't know who else is over there now, but that's where we know them from. But we're glad to have you. Welcome. Thank you for coming by. Okay, Marisa, what do you think? Do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer? What's your opinion on that?
Say that again. You cut out, please.
Sure. Do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer?
I think if you are in a healthy state of mind, then you're going to have expectations for someone else to come from a similar healthy state of mind. And that includes full disclosure as far as who you are, what your hopes, your dreams,
Right.
your beliefs are. I'm not saying going into people's purses and wallets, but I'm just saying full disclosure of you, of your feelings, and not holding back or feeling any reason to hold back. And I think we can have those expectations. And like Jen was saying, not everybody's willing to step up to that level of self disclosure, for
Yeah.
lack of a better phrase. But
Right.
does that mean that we need to turn those people away? I don't feel I need to turn some people away in my life just because they don't want to share everything with me. Maybe they went through some rough stuff and they have trust issues, or whatever their issues may be.
Right.
And I agree with what Jen said. You let the person go and do their thing, and if they want to come back and try and work on it some more, that's great. And you don't stop. I don't stop caring about people like that, and it sounds like Jen doesn't either. But I
Right.
think when you do come from when you've learned to come from a healthy place, you do expect. I do. I expect people to be more upfront and head on about who they are and what they're about. But you don't always get that, do you?
Yeah. No. Thank you, Marisa. I appreciate your answer. Before we ask anyone else, the dude saved says it's wise to expect things from people who you are an advocate for / advocating for. While in covenant marriages before God, if they are not your fierce advocate or know what that is, why be with them? Why be with them? Indeed, dude. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that. Yeah, why indeed? Okay, I'll go next. Do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer? I would agree with both Marisa and Jen. No. It's the same. It should be the same. I've talked before about expectations. It's not that there's no expectations, but I try not to have very many. But ultimately, there are things that I have to have in a relationship. If you want to call them expectations, then that's fine. It's a good word for it. but these are not things that aren't discussed. In other words, I'm not keeping hidden expectations. I pretty much lay out the things that I do expect. I expect not to be cheated on. I expect to, as I've discussed, have a similar belief system. I expect openness and honesty and coming to the table and things like that. So with Jen, yeah, there are things that we both learn about each other into the relationship, but there were some things early on that I could see I didn't need to expect it from her because she willingly offered it. So if the person that you're with is willing to offer everything, then it's not that you expect them to offer more than you're willing to offer. I'm willing to offer everything, and I'm looking for a person that's also willing to do the same. So for me, that's a pretty cut and dry, but that's a great question. Glenn, do you think we often expect more from others than we are prepared to offer? What do you say, sir?
I think from what I've seen is that a lot of people are just users. They will have an expectation of they will do something for you or with you with an expectation that they're going to get something back that they want.
Sure.
I don't think altruism comes into a lot of this. I think it's very obvious very quickly who those people are, and I would try to distance myself from them because I know that it's never going to be in balance. But on the other hand, we get people that just they're the salt of the earth. They give you the shirt off their back. They just are genuinely there to just because of that's their nature. And so I think the answer's a bit of it's a yes, no answer. Some do, some don't. I think you can hook on to the ones that are free with the offer.
Yeah.
I think they're the people you want to be with. But as I said, the users, they take you down. They're the energy vampires. Right. You can feel them doing it to you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can.
And setting you up, for you just to do something for them.
Yes.
What? But never a thought of reciprocation.
Right. Right. As Jen said, they're takers.
Exactly.
I like the term emotional vampire, though. I like that very much. I'm glad you brought that up. You were saying you can feel them. I'm paraphrasing, but you can feel them sucking the energy right out of you. I mean, that has 100%. Happened. I have been around people that after hanging around with them for a brief time, I've got to do something to set myself right again. It feels like just you're drained and missing something. Yeah, I've met people like that over the years, and some of them I can still be in contact with, but I have to have a limited amount of time in direct contact. It's just the way it is. Especially when they're family members. You can be around a family member that's like that I can only be with them for a limited amount of time, once a year maybe, and it's a short visit. And then again, afterwards, I have to, do an emotional cleaning of my house to make sure that things are all set right back again. So yeah, that's a great point, Glenn. Anyone want to comment on that? The idea of people existing that are emotional vampires that suck the energy or the life right out of you? No? Okay. I did put a comment from Janet on the screen. Janet says it's hard when you're older to have equal expectations. Like when I was young, we respected elders and those in authority so much more than what we see now. I struggle with the grandkids at times. Yeah, Janet, I appreciate your comment. Yeah, I think each generation will look at the one that's coming up and they'll say, oh my gosh, where's this world going? It's going to hell in a handbasket. Everybody has been saying that. But I think finally now it's true. All you have to do is watch any TikTok videos and you can easily see that society is at the end. We're due for another reset anytime now. And that's one of the aspects of it. No respect for anyone, let alone elders. And then there's the tricky, slippery slope of elders being horrible people. And I'm not going to get into it. I've told the story before, but some elders, they have nefarious motives. So you still have to be careful, but I am fully aware of the idea of being taught, respect your elders, respect authority, do what they tell you to do. But in my opinion, you have to be very careful of telling your children that. We don't have children, but if I did, I would teach them to respect them up to a point, for sure. Respect your elders up to a point, but there are things that if they ask you to do, you say no, and that's a frightening thing to think of, that we live in a world where you have to do that, but that's the case in my opinion. So there. Okay. All right, next section. Did everyone answer that question?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. All right, going to the write-up again for the next set of questions. Glenn says, okay, you make an offer and the trade is accepted. The bracelet is shiny. However, like all silver, it tarnishes over time. Your stay/go moments are in the wind. I can't live with this bracelet unless I keep polishing it to try to make it new again. No matter how much I polish this bracelet, it is not the same as when I bought it. I love this bracelet, whether it be tarnished or not. It needs no polish. What I would like to ask each person here tonight is, and here's the question, how do you or how would you cope with a relationship that is full of indifference toward the other person? In other words, it will be a wasted effort to buy a bottle of polish, let alone use it.
Whew.
Yeah, that's a lot. How do you or how would you cope with a relationship that is full of indifference toward the other person? So you're in a relationship where the other person is indifferent towards you. Is that correct, Glenn? Okay.
Sorry, that was my mouse not working.
Oh.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I mean.
Okay, so that is, I have the question right. Okay.
You do.
I'll go first, just to make it easy. How would you cope with a relationship that's full of indifference toward the other person? Well, at this point, I wouldn't get in a relationship where the other person is indifferent. I wouldn't do it. But let's say, to answer the question, that I was in that type of relationship. Well, I am in that type of relationship. I hate to keep using my parents all the time for examples. I wouldn't say that my father is totally indifferent to everything, but he is a fairly indifferent person. I'm not saying that if something serious happened to me, he wouldn't be affected emotionally by that in any way. But in any relationship with the person who cares more about themselves, they're more self-focused than they are on you, indifference is part of their whole being. I mean, isn't this what narcissism is all about? A narcissist only cares about himself. They only care about you and how they can use you, or what benefit the relationship with you would have for them in the first place. And obviously there are various levels of that, as we've seen, but it's indifference. That's the bottom line of it. So for me, with people that are indifferent, again, it's that same thing. It's limited amounts of time, if any, and I don't start any new relationships with people that I perceive are indifferent toward me. I'm sure we've all experienced this. We're in a relationship with someone where you ask them a lot of questions about themselves. You're interested in their life, what's going on with you, and they never ask you questions about you. I think that's indifference. And if it's a family member, again, I'm not saying they don't care at all, but they're not concerned with your everyday life. They're not concerned with, how you're doing, what's going on with you. How are you faring in the world as it is today? So it's a no-go for me. I like what Glenn said. It would be a wasted effort to buy a bottle of polish, let alone use it. Yeah, I wouldn't even waste the time on that. You get to the point where in your growth, and speaking for myself, I've gotten to the point in my growth and my maturity that I don't have the time. I would rather invest my time in relationships that are going somewhere and mean something and there's no indifference than I would on someone that's indifferent toward me, for sure. And I certainly, if I was indifferent toward another person, which wouldn't happen, but I wouldn't invest my time in that either. Marisa, what do you think? Indifference. If the other person's indifferent, would you waste your time on a bottle of polish or use it?
I just said in chat, that's tricky sometimes because narcissists will start out by love bombing you and acting like they're interested in everything about you, and they'll ask you a million questions. But what you don't realize is they're gleaning information from you
Right.
to use against you later on down the line. But at the time, you think, wow, this is great. This is my soulmate, my friend, my best friend, whatever. And, empathic people really fall prey to that. I know I have, a few times in my lifetime. But if I'm, actively putting the effort out there, and if I'm getting indifference, then I've got anything better to do. I don't just like, I don't turn my back on that person, but I certainly can find other things to do than to waste time with somebody who is going to just be indifferent,
Right.
especially if there's something that normal people would find important and healthy to share and discuss. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Marisa. Appreciate that. Jen, you're up next. Indifference. The other person's indifferent. I know you have a lot to say about this, so go ahead.
Yeah. Let me pull it up. How would you cope? How do you, or how would you? How did I?
How did you? How did you cope, Jen?
I kept trying harder. I kept trying to be the person that they wanted me to be. And even in friendships, kept giving and sharing and loving and accepting and forgiving. And it didn't work. One, it didn't polish them and make them shine. Things kept getting worse. And I think I tried to do those things to help them see my value and the value in the relationship, and that didn't work either. When it says wasted effort to buy a bottle of polish, I think about the times I tried, getting my ex to go to counseling. I think of polish as like the counseling or trying to sit down and have an adult conversation regarding whatever, was going on. And that didn't work either. It was just fruitless.
Yeah.
How do you cope? I coped by becoming smaller in the relationship and needing less and less and less every day that went by, to where I just pretty much ended up becoming a non-person.
Wow.
And it still didn't change anything. If anything, things were getting worse. And same with some friendships too. I just kept giving. And because I kind of took it as their indifference. I kind of took it as I'm not doing enough, or I'm not trying hard enough, or I'm not being giving enough, or,
Right.
so on and so forth. You guys get the idea. But now, if there's indifference, bye, Felicia. Just like, I'm not going to waste my time if someone's not going to see my value as a person and treat me, even with human decency. It's just, no, I'm not going to do that. But in my past, it was not that way at all.
Right.
I didn't cope well, but I coped by using some very self-destructive coping mechanisms.
Right. Right.
It wasn't so much, aimed at the other person. It was more aimed at myself.
Right.
Which was not healthy. So
no. Well, I know you already know this, but for the listeners, you're definitely with the person that is not indifferent to you now. And in hearing all the stories that you went through and knowing who you are, it just blows my mind that you were ever in a relationship with the other person. I mean, I know it happens. I do. I understand it happens, but it just blows my mind. I just can't fathom it for real. So thank you, Jen. I appreciate you filling us in on that question. Before we get to Glenn, the dude saved us another comment in the chat. Says, yes, love bombing can fool any of us because they are mirroring to us in the love bombing the very best parts of our personality. It's irresistible to us at Nez Lover. So that was, he put that up after Nez's comment, obviously. And the light of Christ says, I guess it depends on the person's personality as well. So there's that. And then Preliminal says, it's been very lonely in the town that I've never intended to live in for 21 years. And says that I feel alienated. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, we're glad that you're here. At least you have online friends. Well, hopefully that's of some benefit to you. So I appreciate that. All right, Glenn, you're up next. Indifference. How do you cope with that? Or will it be a wasted effort to buy a bottle of polish, let alone use it? What do you say?
Yeah, I've never had this experience with family, but I haven't. Even in this town, I've found that there's people who are indifferent. And I think the main thing is you identify it and accept it very quickly, and you just, okay, there's nothing I can do about this. This is this person. I just distance myself from them, but I also am. If I see them, I'll say, "How you going?" Be polite, etc., etc. But I'm not investing.
Yeah.
There's no point on investing. My energy is better spent elsewhere.
Right.
I think that's the part is where you think that you can make someone change from indifference to caring is where people get into trouble.
Yeah.
They think they can do it, but the truth is they can't. Because a lot of times the person themselves doesn't even know that they're indifferent. That is who they are.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it's how do I cope? I accept it.
Yeah.
And I consign it to where it needs to be so that I don't invest too much, but I don't be impolite or or unavailable to have a conversation. That's
right.
But I'm very careful about it. I want to get home. Thanks. Yeah,
right.
You got it.
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate that. Okay. All right. Next question. Where's the point where you might say the comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing? The comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing. So in terms of the question above is about indifference, and we're talking about in relationships, the idea of the bracelet, like what kind of relationship is going to be best for you and worth the time? What are you willing to trade? So where's the point where you say the comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing, in the idea of I don't want to miss a thing? What do you think, Jen?
I think somebody might be deluding themselves. I know I was. I thought there was security.
Right.
And I think there was some normalcy and some comfort in being in this relationship that I was trying to resuscitate, which wasn't actually there in the beginning anyway. It was a farce. And I did have to get to a place where I realized, okay, the things I am missing far outweigh the quote unquote comforts, knowing that my whole life was going to change by stepping out of the relationship.
Right.
But the things that I was missing, I was like, I can't continue to live life like this. All of the things that I hold dear to my heart, I do not have in this relationship, and I have the exact opposite.
Right. Oh my God.
So yeah, I just had to make a hard decision to get out of that.
Yeah.
I think it made it a little easier knowing that I really did. Well, I was about to say I really did try, but did I? I think I tried in a lot of unhealthy, wrong ways.
Yeah.
But I stayed loyal for a long time, and I prayed my heart out and cried many tears and tried to believe that this person could see me at some point and could get to a place where they saw this relationship isn't healthy. It's not good. Like, let's come together as a team and try to, fix it. But he didn't see anything wrong with what was going on. So yeah, where's the point where you might say that the comforts I have are now outweighed by what I'm missing? I think Janet, what might have been Janet earlier in the chat, she said something about sometimes when there's financial security and, a big nice house and nice cars, and sometimes people stay because there's security, even though they're being treated badly. And I guess they weigh the security to be higher of worth and value than them being seen or heard or treated well.
Right.
Or with love. And that's unfortunate.
Good example,
I think we've all known people like that have just stayed for those reasons, and that's sad. And I guess that does kind of highlight their lack of self-worth and their own needs. I mean, I guess security is a need, but I think when you've lived in hell and had security, you're like, okay, I'd rather have insecurity with finances and all this other stuff.
Right.
I mean, I got to the point where I seriously was like, I would rather live on the street and have some happiness and some peace than
Yeah.
stay in this situation. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, some people really, thank you, Jen. That was a really great point. And some people come down to that decision. It's, am I willing to leave this toxic, unhealthy relationship that I've just been surviving in, and put myself in a situation where I might be homeless, or I might be jobless, or I might have to move to a different town to escape? Or do I stay in this thing and I give up the things that are important, like Jen was saying, giving up things that are important to her. I mean, when I think about Jen and her relationship, the best analogy I can think of is a very beautifully cut diamond, and it's put down in the basement in a safe, and no one ever gets to see it. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, I would not waste that. I mean, I know I'm using a weird analogy because she's obviously more than a diamond to me, but it's the closest thing I can think of. And people are faced with this decision, I believe, every day. Stay or go, stay/go. And you're in an abusive situation where you're not living, you're just surviving. To me, it's a no-brainer. But to the person that's in it, they have to look at, Jen said security, over you being acknowledged as a person. And Jen, in my opinion, I think that the security that you perceived wasn't even a real security. But,
No.
is any security, financial or otherwise, is that valuable when you're being ripped apart as a person and you're not being acknowledged or perceived as for who you are? I would say no security is worth that. Like
No.
Jen said, I'd rather live on the street than have to deal with something like that. Great answer, Jen. Thank you. Marisa, you're up next on this one. The comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing. What do you say?
The comforts that I have now may be outweighed by what I'm missing. In other words, do I feel like there's something else out there that I may want, and my need for having that? Are we saying my need for that, or the possibility, or are those concomitant? Are we,
No, so we're talking about the bracelet as the example, and the relationship. So, like as Jen was saying, she was in a relationship where she had to make a decision, by leaving whatever perceived comfort that she had, and not knowing what was out there. What's more important? If your comforts are outweighed by what you may be missing, like if you're thinking about getting into a relationship and you're thinking about your comfort of that relationship and making a decision, is it worth what you might be missing if you say no? That's the way I see it.
Speaking for me, where I've been, even if things get lonely sometimes, it's a damn sight better than where I've been. For me, it's been an issue of survival, sometimes physical, sometimes emotional, spiritual. For me, right now,
Yeah.
I'm safe. My bills are paid. My needs are met as far as basic everyday things. My children have what they need wherever, my son's out in the world doing his thing. I really couldn't ask for anything more.
Right.
The only thing that's missing is what is added to my life if I was in a relationship, actively ongoing in a committed relationship with a man.
Right.
And if I don't have anything, if nobody's waiting in the wings, if I'm not inconveniencing anybody or making them wait for me to make a decision, it's just me right now. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I was missing out when I was living in hell, when I was in bad relationships with people from the past. I was missing out then. I finally feel like I have what I always wanted back then. Is there a man involved? No. Will there ever be? I don't know. But
Right.
right now, no, I'm not missing a thing.
Right. Wow, that's a great way to look at it. Thank you, Marisa. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I agree with you, by the way. If you're looking at your life as, you're not missing whatever decision you make, you're not missing anything. You're going to get out of it what you get out of it. That's a great way to look at it. Glenn, you're last on this one. The comforts I have are now outweighed by what I may be missing. Tough question, you said. Acknowledged.
Yeah, it's a very tough question because circumstances are so different for each person. But I'm going to use Sandra as an example for this. She's married. Her prior marriage was for 27 years, which is a pretty fair situation. And we had that chat. Of course, as part of one of the initial questions, well, why did you leave? Like, it's pretty obvious you're there for 27 years. You're going to get asked that.
Yeah.
Well, she said, well, I hung in there. Like the hubby he was a bit of a this and a bit of a that, but she said we had money. We could live our own lives, etc., etc. She said, he didn't hit me. He wasn't abusive. Whilst there may not have been a lot of what you might call love, there was no hate. She said he wasn't a bad man. He wasn't someone who would take you down or anything like that. So it's like she said, we just had an equilibrium.
Yeah.
Whereby, okay, we're getting to the point. Okay, so she's had the comforts, and then I said, okay, well, there's got to be something that's broken, the straw that's broken the camel's back. And she said, yes. Essentially what she said was that it got to the point where she didn't want to be his mother.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Mm.
She wanted him to be a husband, but she didn't want to have to be the one to look after him because he just had sort of sold out, sat under the house, drinking beer all day, just sort of stuff. She said, I can't deal with it.
Right.
So you either shape up, and contribute, or I'm going to depart. So what happened was for her, the comfort that she had, the roof over the head, all that stuff, was now outweighed by the fact that she thought, well, I'm putting too much in and I'm not getting reciprocated.
Right.
So that's her situation. That was her reason for leaving.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be huge.
No.
It doesn't have to be that someone bashes the crap out of you.
Right.
It doesn't have to be abuse. It can be just for other, like incidental reasons that you just come to the point of you don't want to go on anymore. You've just had enough. So yeah. If anyone's got any questions about that, put them up.
No, I think you explained that perfectly. I understand what you're saying. Absolutely. Anyone else have a question after Glenn's answer? Any comment? Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. From the write-up, Glenn says, the hard part of this is that no therapy manual or YouTube expert can ever tell us what we might be missing, because to find out, we have to experience these things for ourselves. How true is that? I digress for a short time. Recently, I heard firsthand from a Christian who sticks to the creed that being divorced for reasons other than adultery leaves them unable to remarry until their ex-spouse dies. Not only that, if another offers them a silver bracelet, they have to say no to the bracelet, shiny or tarnished. So the question that comes from that is, where is the life experience to come from when told, do not put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so? Where's the life experience to come from when told, do not put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so? I'll go first on this one. I don't know where the life experience would come from, but for me, I react very strongly to people telling me what I can and cannot do. If it's God that's telling me, and I see the question below that I'll fill this out a little bit more. To me, it's a little bit different if God tells me to do something, but the things that God says to do. Now, I don't mean that if Scripture is being misinterpreted by man, the things that God requires to me are reasonable. As I've said before, His commandments are reasonable. David agreed with that. Said, "Your statutes are pure and righteous," which I would agree with. But I have heard where Scripture is misinterpreted, mostly by false teachers or pastors that aren't looking at the verses in the total context of what's being said or the context of all of Scripture. To me, God doesn't require us to live in a situation like this. Don't put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so. Yeah, there are, quote, sins, unquote, that He wants to keep us away from because it's destructive to our lives. But in the story that was told, and like I said, I'll answer more to the next question. But I don't want to be under a situation where someone is telling me to not put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so. So that's just the first part of that. What do you think, Jen? Where's the life experience to come from when told do not put any bracelet on your arm or don't even think about doing so?
I don't know if I could answer that part because I don't agree with the first part.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I think this particular topic has been twisted a little bit because I think adultery can happen in other ways than sexual.
Yeah.
I think.
Jen, let me interrupt you. Let's combine these two questions because they really are
go together.
Okay, so let me read both questions together. Where's life experience to come from when told do not put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so? And for believers, what say you to this person that's saying this?
I know for me specifically, and I'm not trying to go into defensive mode or anything, but I don't think my first marriage was a God-sanctioned marriage.
No.
First of all, my ex falsely presented himself.
Yeah.
And there was abuse in many forms. And I think there was adultery in many forms. I don't know if he physically cheated on me. There's a possibility that might have happened.
Right.
There was no intimacy and no pursuing of me intimately.
Right.
Gosh, for years. And the business that we ran together, his work was like the mistress. He put it in front of everything.
Yeah.
Even in front of health, and injury and just being exhausted. It just came before holidays and anniversaries and funerals. And I mean, good grief. It just was crazy. So I kind of disagree with this. I think it's leaning more on the side of legalistic.
For sure.
And I think, I don't know, it's an interesting topic. Believers, what say to this person? I also think you have to take it in context of how society was back then for the Jews and how they did things with marriage and how things worked. It's very different now.
Yeah.
Where to get the life experience to come from when told not to put on the bracelet. Now, I will say that I've heard many stories of people getting divorced and coming out of whether it's, sexual adultery or abuse, and people are able to get life experience from, just friendships and working on themselves, getting themselves healthier.
Yeah.
But I get where Glenn is going with this, the life experience within a relationship. It's kind of hard to get the experience if you're not putting on another bracelet.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could date. That would be a way of sort of putting the bracelet on and like getting some experience. But I don't know. What do you say?
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and finish since we're adding the question, and then we'll go to Marisa, and then we'll hear from Glenn. Believers, what do you say to this person? The first thing I say is that there is so much, in my opinion, disinformation and misinterpretation of, as I said, the verses that talk about divorce, and also the entire discourse of the chapter / book / the entire Bible. It is clear that God does state in Scripture that He hates divorce. But if you do a study on the reasons why divorce was allowed, and I've talked about this before, the whole reason why divorce is even allowed is to protect women. And I'm not making this up. This isn't my opinion. This is because, as Jen said, you have to be aware of the customs at the time. And before divorce was allowed, a man that was dissatisfied with his wife for any reason could just have her stoned and have her killed. So God's like, okay, let's add to there that, gosh, just if you cannot handle being with your wife, give her a writ of divorcement, and then there were rules around that. If she's divorced, if he lets her go, if there's adultery involved, then both people are able to get married. And this whole idea of, you have to wait till your ex-husband dies. That was Old Testament. Now I have to be very careful. We could do a whole broadcast on this topic, but I'm not saying that the Old Testament laws are forfeit, but Jesus fulfilled all of the old law, in my opinion. Doesn't mean that all of it's out the window, but does God want people who go through an abusive situation? Let's say adultery didn't happen, but there was abuse. Does He want us not to fall in love with someone else? He just wants us to be single the rest of our lives? I think what it comes down to is each individual person and their relationship with God. They have to decide what's best for them and what God wants for them. As I've stated several times, and people can disagree with this, that's okay with me. Just like a parent has different children and he can't parent them all in the same ways. I feel like God is the same way. That's just my opinion. But I feel like, each individual situation has to be dealt with in that way. And no one from the outside can judge that person or should judge that person because they're not their judge anyway. It's only God that judges. And if God is telling you, if you're a byproduct of divorce where adultery was not included, He'll tell you whether it's okay for you to be with someone or not. But honestly, if you put all the God stuff aside, for me, just from a purely logical perspective, I think that a person should have the right to be in love and follow that. For me, it's not just about the life experience. I also understand, I think, where Glenn's coming from. I understand his perspective on this. Everything's not just about what kind of life experience I'm going to have. There are some, at least as a believer, there's moral issues and values and things that come into it. There's a lot dependent on that. But at the end of the day, again, it comes down to, in my opinion, the relationship that you have, if you're a believer, with God and what He's telling you. It shouldn't be based on other people judging you. So that's my long-winded answer to that. Marisa, what do you think on this one?
I think I agree with you as far as it's up to the individual and their personal spiritual walk with the Lord. God will tell you,
right,
whether you're supposed to be doing something or not.
Yeah.
And I also don't think everybody gets to put on a bracelet. Maybe you've had a few bracelets on in your life. Maybe you're out of bracelets. Maybe your experience is just to live life without a bracelet.
No more bracelet for you. Did you mean to? Are you done, Nez? Okay. She's muted. I don't know what happened there. Someone's having problems with their sound. It's like a muffled thing that keeps happening. I don't know. It could be me. I don't know. Maybe she was done. What about you, Glenn? You're the last one on this one. Then we'll move on. Where's life experience from when told, do not put any bracelet on your arm and don't even think about doing so? And I realize you're not a believer, but what do you have to say about the second question conjoined with that one? What say you to this person?
I have a lot to say. That's unusual.
Yeah. Go for it. I'm settled in. I'm sitting. I'm comfy and cozy.
You're waiting with anticipation.
Yes, sir.
The reason I reacted to this conversation was because of children. Now, my ex-wife was a Christian. We have, it wasn't a healthy relationship. Okay, right. We split up. One child went here, one child there.
Right.
I've got 2 kids of a reasonably young age.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about this in retrospectively now when I had this conversation. I thought, if I was in this situation about you can't ever put a bracelet on your arm, how could I have ever demonstrated a healthy relationship to my children? Like, your mum met my kids. They remember her quite well. It's a fair while ago.
Oh.
And yeah, I know they got on really well. Your mum was really, really kind to my children.
Wonderful.
And they never forgot that.
Wonderful.
I told them that she'd passed away, and they knew all about it. Like they recalled it, her, and like just connecting with people by putting a bracelet on set them a role model of demonstrating love and healthy relationships to them. And I thought, well, when I think of the way they are today, particularly my son, who isn't the Asperger's, who has a great relationship with his wife, I just think if I hadn't been able to do that because I was constrained by this Christian scenario,
mm-hmm.
I don't think they would be as balanced and with it relationships wise as they are. So that it's more that it's coming from the children point of view, letting them see a parent, at least one, in a loving, open-hearted relationship, to my mind, is just so important. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Glenn. So just as a secondary question, again, realize you're not a believer, but so what do you say to a person from your perspective on this particular idea, the idea of that they can't remarry until their ex dies if there was an adultery? Now, you say in the write-up, okay, predictable atheist thinks this is insanity with a capital I. I thought God was about love, end of story, but to each their own.
Well, I say to each their own. I say it's not my life, it's your life. Make your own decisions, of course. Right. It's not for me to judge your what you do with your life, right. But I'm just putting forward the rationale for why I see it as so inhibiting to anyone who has kids. And right. I think I want my kids to continue on with healthy relationships down the line. I want them to demonstrate it to their kids.
Sure.
So that is my real angle.
Yeah.
It's not so much about the individual person, the parent being in denial or doing what they want, but I think of the kids.
Right.
So that's where I'm coming from.
Thank you, Glenn. You filled that out very nicely. I appreciate that. All right. We have Marisa back. She was having some technical difficulties. Do you want to do a mic test, Nez, before we get going?
Testing 1, 2, sibilance.
Test. Thank you. I got you. Thank you very much. Glad you're back. All right, 3 more questions. We'll call it a night. First one is after that little sidetrack, we come to the icing on the cake. Is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because 2 people are healthy? Ooh, I'm here ready to go on this one. But I will concede to anyone else that has a burning desire to answer this excellent question. Is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because the 2 people are healthy? No?
Go, Jason, go.
I'll go. Yes. Yes. My answer, I thought about this a lot. Is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because the two people are healthy? Yes. And here's why. If the two people are healthy as individuals and they come together in a relationship, that means any differences, any struggle, any pain, any problems that come up in the relationship can be worked out in a healthy way. I don't see any way around that. Maybe one of you can give me an example of where two healthy people get together and the relationship does not end up being healthy in some way. And maybe there's some work that needs to be done. I'm not saying that the two people, just because they're healthy, are perfect. That would be close to that. If a person is completely and totally healthy without any kind of breakage or brokenness or any of that, which is impossible in my opinion in this world. But I do believe people can continue to grow and change and work towards being healthy and have many things that are completely 100% healthy. But for the sake of argument, two healthy, perfect people get in a relationship, the relationship will be perfect and healthy. That's my opinion on that. And I'll reserve the right to fill in any more based on anyone else's answer. Anyone else want to go next? Just put your hand up.
I
I'll
would
do it.
just, oh, go ahead.
I'll go, Jen. You go. No, you go.
I just was going to say, I agree with you, Jason. I couldn't have
Okay.
said it better.
Oh,
Go ahead,
thank
Glenn.
The questions are set up.
Oh, no, don't say it so, Glenn.
Well, I'm only being honest and open and healthy, hopefully.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, but it's really getting to the point, well, okay, yeah, you've got two healthy people, the relationship's healthy, but as you see in the next paragraph, what if there's no music? Do you want to be there just because it's healthy?
Ah,
This is see, okay, we've agreed. I think we all agree that there isn't some sort of inherent guarantee that two healthy people will have a healthy relationship. But what is that? What is a healthy relationship in the context of an overall relationship with or without music?
Well, that's a question isn't that one of the, well, yeah, that's the next question.
It
That's
is.
the next question. So I'm trying to look at the questions as being separate. So
Sure.
right initially in answering the question, I feel like I answered honestly. Two healthy people, is it guaranteed to work? The relationship, in my opinion, is guaranteed to work. To me, it's a separate question of whether that relationship is music. And
That's a fair point. I can't think of any situation I've seen where two people who are healthy have come together and produced an unhealthy outcome.
Right. All right. So we'll get to that in the next question. All right. Jen, you were up next, I believe. Is any relationship guaranteed to be? Oh, you answered. You said you agreed with me. Do you have anything you want to add?
the music part, that's a very good point. Because,
That's the next question.
oh, do you want me to wait?
Yeah, please. Just,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Because I do believe they are separate. They can. I'm not saying they're unrelated, but it's like this question step one, and then we have an important step two. Marisa, is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because the two people are healthy? What's your say?
I'm going to go ahead and say no, simply because everybody.
Did you freeze?
Uh-oh.
Nez, I think you're frozen. Sorry to hear that.
Oh, no.
Okay, go out and come back in or whatever you think you need to do, and then we'll go back to asking. You can finish answering that question because I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. Meanwhile, Annette says, definitely impossible to have anyone be totally healthy. Yeah, I would kind of agree with that. That's kind of what I was saying. 100%, I'm talking about 100% healthy. Looks like we have Marisa back. Okay, go ahead and try to answer, Marisa. You were
Okay. I was just going to say no guarantees because none of us are perfect.
Right.
Even if two people are behaving in a healthy fashion, we can learn things and still go in a different direction, whether it's politically or religiously. maybe something what they call irreconcilable differences can still
Mhm.
happen, and even if the breakup is healthy and peaceable, I think it's
Yeah.
possible. I don't
Yeah.
think there's any magic guarantee
Right.
under any circumstance.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Marisa. Appreciate you sharing. The dude saved us says probably yes. Still got to be fierce advocates for each other, but sounds like the best way to start a relationship equals both healthy. I like the dude. I really do. I like your answers. You and I get along very well. I liked your joke based on what I said about uh, getting together, go bowling, and tell stories. And I was talking about my dad, and the dude said, I'm paraphrasing, of course, we said, sounds like our dads could get together and go bowling. That's actually a line from The Breakfast Club, one of my favorite movies from back in the day, where he's talking about your dad and my dad should get together and go bowling sometime. I just always loved it, and it's still right there. So, I don't know if the dude had ever seen that, but we're glad to have you here. All right, so everyone answered that one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the second part. I would say that was part A, and this is part B to this idea. We hear all the time, extricate from relationships that hurt us. We talk about that a lot, abusive relationships, relationships that hurt us with another person. But do we risk just as much being in a so-called healthy situation, but one that is devoid of symmetry and music?
Symmetry.
Symmetry.
There you go.
Did I say cemetery?
Yeah.
Sorry, it was close. It was close to cemetery. Yeah, I'm
so
not
cute.
implying that anything like that would be an automatic death. You want to answer first, Jen?
Yeah. As for the relationship that hurt
What if
us,
there's not music? So you've talked a lot about your abusive situation, and I talked to you. This is interesting. This will be fun. I talked to you. I try to make the point that even if you just married some average guy, he's an average,
yeah,
he's not abusive, whatever, not super rich, but he, supplies needs, blah, blah, blah. You wouldn't have the abuse. But what if that average person's not abusive, but there's no music or symmetry?
I think I could have been at peace and possibly happy.
Yeah.
But the music that you and I have, holy moly.
Oh my God.
If anything ever happened to you, I'd be ruined for any other guy.
Yeah.
No other
Well,
guy could
good.
live up to you.
That's what I was shooting for.
I think if, it kind of makes me think that, and I don't want to rain on anyone's parade or anything, but it almost seems like there could be love in a situation like that. Maybe more of like not roommates, more than roommates. Yeah, like a friendship.
Yeah.
But the music just I feel like music makes everything so much more vibrant, saturated, I didn't know that was where Glenn was going with this, but yeah. And maybe I can say that coming from the perspective of being in a relationship where there's just grand music. But I don't know for sure. I haven't experienced that, where I haven't been in a healthy relationship where both people are healthy, but there's no music. So I'm kind of coming from the place where there is.
Yeah.
So I can hypothesize, but I don't know for sure.
Right.
What
Thank
say
you,
you?
Jen. What I say is that I like what you said about, I think there are relationships where there isn't music. I think I have seen relationships of people that are married. They have a love for one another. They have a duty towards each other.
Respect.
The relationship is fairly healthy, especially quote unquote Christians. They'll stay in a marriage that's not abusive, even if the love is quote unquote gone. They're not growing towards each other, but they get along and they have a pattern of life that works, or they have kids and, they work well together with finances, and they have a vacation once a year, and they do enjoy themselves, but there's no music between them. That's their choice. For me, After the marriage that I was in the first time, I would rather be alone than not have music. I would. And I made the decision the first time. It was a poor decision. I have learned a lot from it, but there was no music. I tried to make there be music, but I couldn't. You can't make music where there is none. You can't create symmetry, or why am I saying that wrong? Symmetry.
Yeah, symmetry.
Symmetry. Yeah. You can't create it, in my opinion. It's either the music is either there, it exists between the two people, or it doesn't. It cannot be created. As Jen was saying, she was just trying to survive. She was trying to get her ex to acknowledge her existence. I mean, we're talking base level stuff, relationship 101, the things that should have been there, let alone to find music. But I have music now, definitely symmetry. And Jen, I say the same thing to you. If something were to happen to you, I'm done. I'm a single guy until I die. I have no delusions that I could ever create or find a person better for me than you. And I'm really not trying to be sappy. I'm really, really being honest. That is how I feel. So I'm going to stick with that. Okay. So what about you, Marisa? Devoid of symmetry or music, what do you say?
There really isn't much point without the music, is there?
You're a
Why would
musical
you wanna be
person,
there?
Marisa. You're a very musical
Anybody
person.
can go through the emotions. Anybody can go through the motions just for the sake of staying together. You can get along. But
Yeah.
getting along doesn't equate to music, does it?
No. But I think we're on the same page, or you can correct me if I'm wrong. If people want to be together without music, that's up to them. I'm not going to judge them or tell them, hey, you need to get with someone else where there's music. I wouldn't say that, but for me, there has to be music. Is that kind of what you're saying, Marisa?
I think that's very important. If you're going to go there and put a bracelet on your wrist, there better be music that goes with that bracelet.
Right.
Amen.
Right. Welcome to TRKER Mac. Tricker. I'm not sure how to say that, but welcome. We're glad that you're here. I believe I've seen you before, but they say, I have always felt if you cannot sit together in gentle serenity, where there are moments of long-term silence, and still be content, there can be music in silence. Okay, interesting point. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. Jen agrees. She says amen. Okay, great. Marisa went, I went, and okay, so Glenn, you're up on this one. What if there's no music or symmetry?
I got a few bracelets.
Yeah. That's going on a t-shirt.
but okay, let's just line them up. No, as in dynamically. Not they look elements of unhealthiness. Music plus music.
Right.
I'd say
that's a great point.
Very healthy. The music's not really an orchestra, and the healthy with the real healthy with a lot of music.
Wow.
I just felt, and I felt comfortable with the first and the third, where the elements of unhealthy but still music, but the middle one, healthy but no music. That to my mind, that left me like emotionally debilitated.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel. If there's no music, you're not really. I didn't feel involved. I felt like it's just something missing, and I didn't want that.
Right.
So.
Great point.
So I think. What do you think? What was that, Jen?
I just said great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So I'm not like. I suppose I came to that question because I've had to think of, as you know, my situation is with a lady who's got serious health issues.
Yeah.
Now the question is, when you get in a care or caree situation that you're both healthy, does do you feel inside that all the music's gone? In other words, does where you're not two equals, where you've got like obviously there's not two equals in the sense that I have to do pretty much everything and she can't. That it was always an interesting thought. Well, is the music going to die off
Right.
because situationally you've had to make serious adjustments to your relationship?
Right. Yeah.
And I can answer that truthfully and say the music is not any different. Although I thought it would be, but it isn't. So I was just I'm surprised by that I didn't sort of. You live in frustration of the situation, but you don't lose the music. If that makes sense.
Right. No, I hear you.
So I'm going with the music. I think no, don't. I couldn't do it without it. No, not a chance.
Right.
That's what keeps me That's what keeps you alive. That's what you fall back on. Is that there's underpinning everything that you got.
Yeah.
There's a genuine affection, and there's genuine. It's just real. You know, it's not forced. It's authentic.
Authentic.
And it's enjoyable still to be with that person.
Yeah.
It's not a drudge.
Mm.
It's not, I've got to get up in the morning and give them a cup of tea. No, you do it because you feel like you want to be there, not that you have to be there. And it's a huge difference.
That is a huge difference.
So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. I'll just add to that. I was talking to Jen, it was a couple of weeks ago, I think, but we were talking about past marriages and stuff. And that topic comes up a lot. And if it was that we were bragging on our ex or something and we weren't able to have our relationship with each other without talking about that, then I would be a little bit more concerned. But a lot of times it's just comparing the two and celebrating that it's so different. I just lost my train of thought. Oh my gosh. I had a good point to make. We were talking about, nope, I lost it. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So we'll just move on. This leads to the question, by definition, does part of being a so-called healthy person include having a loving heart? Or to put it another way, can we be healthy but yet empty of love within ourselves? Anyone have a burning desire to answer that one? Okay. I'll go. I'll read the question one more time. This leads to the question, by definition, does part of being a so-called healthy person include having a loving heart? Or to put it another way, can we be healthy but yet be empty of love within ourselves? I'm sure this is going to surprise Glenn. I would say no. Maybe it won't surprise him. I'm just being having a go rather. But no. You can't be healthy, in my opinion, totally healthy. Well, we've already determined that no one's totally healthy, but to me, love is intrinsic in health. It should be. I'm not saying I can't. I've tried thinking about what that would look like for a person to be healthy and not have love in their heart. We talked a little bit about people that are together because of duty. They have kids or whatever. There's no music. But again, this is a different word to me than music. Music is to me the dynamics of the relationship. How it flows. How the two people, I in my mind, I keep imagining music playing and the two people dancing. There's love in that, but that's not necessarily a loving heart. So I'm treating this as a separate related third question. If there's no love, I don't understand how there can be health. Yeah. I'm gonna have to. This one I'm gonna have to think. I don't think I can just answer it and let it go. I'm gonna have to think more about it. But just for the sake of tonight's broadcast, I would say, if you're empty of love, I don't see that as healthy, and I don't see how it could be healthy. I mean, believer or not believer. Certainly, as a believer, we would say that if there's no love in your heart, you're not a believer. for a believer, biblically speaking, love is everything for a believer. Love tells other people that we believe God is love. So if we have his Holy Spirit, we're going to have love in our heart. And to me, that gives us the best chance of being healthy. That's my answer to that. Anyone want to go next?
I'll just say that I agree with you.
Okay. All right. We want to say hello to Bottle Caps and also to the Nut House, our buddy. We're glad that you're both here. And by the way, Peanut, just remember to remind me when we have that broadcast coming up. I haven't forgotten about it, but I'm not. I feel like I know when it is, but please remind me ahead of time as much ahead of time as possible, just so I don't forget. I said that I would be there. I'm looking forward to it. I just don't want to forget about it. So just please remind me ahead of time. You have my phone number. A text is fine, whatever. Just let me know. Okay. All right. And Jen answered, I answered. Marisa, would you like to answer this one?
Without love, we have nothing. What else can I say? And hello to Bottle Caps and Peanut.
Marisa, tonight, I hope everything's fine with you. I'm not assuming that there isn't anything fine. Your tone tonight is I can't put my finger on what it reminds me of. It's just really, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a classical radio station, like a broadcast at night when you're playing like soft jazz. You're like, hi, this is Marisa.
I thought you were going to reprimand me, telling me you didn't like my tone.
No.
It's softer tonight.
It's just softer. It's just
no guilting and shaming tonight. Okay.
No.
I was
As he responds in an equally soft voice. No,
you're fine. The next time, Glenn Miller up next for your relaxing pleasure. Have a good night. It's 50 degrees out there. Keep warm, keep well.
That's hilarious.
Okay, so Marisa says no.
Love is everything.
Love is everything. All right. Glenn, you're last up, and then we'll say our good nights.
Yeah, I thought about this one because it was relevant to the first question. Is any relationship guaranteed to be healthy just because two people are healthy?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Right.
To be honest, I think I agree with you guys. I just find it extremely difficult to dissociate the two things. I think they're an intrinsic part of each other. I believe.
Wow, I would agree.
So when the dude saved us says having love in your heart and guarding your heart could look like no love in your heart because you're guarding it, which leads to a good question: is if you're guarding your love, does that mean you are not healthy fully healthy? Does that not allow you to be fully healthy in the sense of the write-ups?
Yeah.
From everybody. What do you think?
If you have to guard your love, I don't think that's healthy. I mean, when we have all this talk on these broadcasts about being healthy, and again, I guess it's up to each person to decide what's healthy for them. But I do think there is a form of healthiness that we can all agree on. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but to me, there are some things that the four of us could agree, that's healthy or that's unhealthy. So yeah. That's, I guess that's what I have to say about that. Anyone else want to comment on it? No.
Do you want to be with someone? Do you want to be in a relationship with someone that's guarding their heart?
No, not me.
No.
Jen, if someone's guarding their heart, what does that say? Is that?
Well, it could be that they're guarding their heart from outside people, but maybe not with you. that I could
Oh,
understand,
sure.
if they've been hurt. But yeah, if they're guarding their heart from me, I mean, I'd like to extend a little bit of understanding, but hoping that through getting to know each other and spending time together, that guard comes down. But I would much rather prefer to be with someone whose their heart's fully open to me. They
Yeah.
trust me.
Gotcha. Thank you, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Bottle Cap says this conversation is going MGTOW. Have no idea what that is, so I don't know whether
MGTOW, men going their own way.
this conversation.
How's that?
Men going
Bottle
their own way.
caps.
Yeah, I don't get it. Please explain if you'd like to.
Yeah, I don't follow that one either.
I'm lost. Sorry.
85% of all marriages end in horrible divorce. That's what they were saying.
85%? Surely not.
No, it's like 52, 53%. Usually it hovers around right over the halfway mark, generally speaking. But I haven't looked at a study in a while, but I can't imagine it would be that high. Maybe it goes up. It went up during COVID, I know. I know the divorce rate went up during that. And it does when there's hard times, recessions and whatnot. It goes up for a little while. But just the median when things are fairly normal is 52, even among believers. I did a study on that a while back. Anyway,
I wonder if
What do you
bottle
think of the
caps
dude's
is.
point? Oh, sorry, Jen. You go.
Oh, I just was gonna say, I wonder if what he's meaning, because he did add when you said guarding your love. So the men going their own way movement is men deciding not to take a chance on women because they've either seen a lot or experienced a lot of women just using them for their money or wanting
Right.
support for the kids they have from prior marriages and so on and so forth. So
Right.
yeah, in a way they're guarding their heart for sure,
right.
along with other things.
Okay. Well,
So maybe that's what they meant.
that explains it more. And Bottle Cap says, I was just watching Jordan Peterson divorce rate is that high. Well, if Jordan Peterson says that, I'd be more likely to agree. I love Jordan Peterson. Really respect him. He's got a lot of videos on YouTube. I strongly suggest anyone get a hold of videos he says. He's, I think he's still a professor, but he's from Canada. But he started doing speaking engagements and things like that. And I've listened to a lot of his stuff, and he's definitely on my favorites list. So thank you for that, Bottle Caps. I hear what you're saying. I don't know if that's true. I'm going to look it up, but either way, that's awesome. Okay, Marisa. Wait, did you already answer?
Oh, is she muted again?
She's muted. She might be having problems. Did everyone else answer?
I think so.
Okay. I think I don't want to leave anyone out, but I think everyone answered. Pretty much all said no to the last one. Can we be healthy yet empty of love within ourselves? I think we agree. All right. We'll go ahead and close it down. Oh, she's in here twice. Here, let me. Okay.
Oh, wow, there's two of me. I wonder
There's
what the
two.
other one has to say.
Yay!
Okay. Now there's only one. Okay. Did you answer? You did answer the last question, right, Marisa? I didn't want to leave you out there.
Yes, I said without love.
Okay. Excellent.
Got nothing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, the last part of the write-up is the truth, as I see it, is that life's most musical moments tend to arise from situations where people find this sweet surrender spot within and cast aside their shackles. If you, quote, don't want to miss a thing, end quote, that means you must reveal who you really are. Amen. Adventure, risk, spontaneity, and freedom. Living is not always about being the healthiest person in town, you know. Wow. Great write-up. So thank you, everyone who's listened and being a part of this 4-part series on healthy relationships. I hope that someone out there somewhere got something from it, or at least enjoyed the discourse and answering all the questions. Thank you to everyone on the panel for taking the time to do your particular perspective and help us have a future playlist that we'll put all these in one playlist together. I used to be way better about trying to group playlist together. But yeah, not so much anymore. But this one, when they're all related like this, they need to go in a separate playlist. Okay. All right. So next week is Maurice's turn. She asked to go next. And so we'll get to hear from her perspective. I don't know what topic it's going to be, but I'm sure we're going to all be pleasantly surprised. She does a great job with the write-ups, and we look forward to hearing what she has to say. So I'll say goodnight first. Thank you again for being part of tonight's broadcast on the last day of July. One more hot month here in our area, and then it starts to cool off again. And I cannot wait. I love fall and spring. Just me. Everyone needed to know that. Now you can sleep comfortably. But I'll let Marisa close, but we will see you next Sunday night. Same bat time, same bat channel, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I just appreciate everyone that has come in the chat and participated within the questions, and also those listening to playback. Thank you. Jen, take a minute to say goodbye to the peoples.
Goodbye, peoples. Thank you so much for the insightful comments in the chat and the insightful comments of my fellow hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And this was lovely. Thank you, Glenn, for the write-up. This was, I wasn't sure. Sometimes I read it and I'm not sure where it's going to go, and I'm always delightfully surprised.
Yeah.
Which, part of it's the write-up, part of it's the people answering the questions and the chat.
Yeah.
So appreciate you guys. Have a great week. You guys are all in our prayers. And if you have any specific prayer requests, please drop them in the chat and we'll add it onto the list.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
All right. Okay. Marisa, or sorry, Glenn, take a minute to say goodbye to peoples. If you have any closing comments as you're closing out the series, please take a moment to do so.
Yeah, I think, like I said to Cripps last week, no matter what any of us write, he seems to always be able to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So keep it up, Cripps. I know I couldn't do it, that's for sure. So that's why he's hosting.
Oh, thank you, Glenn. I appreciate that.
So I'll say good night, and thanks for all the people who came. There's some very great comments in that. I think that in the chat added greatly to everything that was said. So thanks a lot to everyone. Good night.
Well, thank you. When Glenn passes me a compliment, I take it and I don't let my head get too big because they don't come often. So when they come, they're authentic. That's my perspective, and I'm sticking to it. Marisa, close us out, and if you have any closing comments for the end of our series, please pass them along to the listeners. Yes, you're muted. You gone again?
Oh.
There she is.
Is he ready for me to say goodnight?
I am, Nez. I am.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Glenn, for a wonderful write-up. Thank you to Jen and Jason. Another great discussion. And thanks to everybody who came. And thank you to everybody who watches the replay and shares it out on your social media. Thank you so much. I'm the only one here on the panel who's not in a healthy married relationship. And I'm the only one who apparently thinks that not everybody gets a bracelet and all the music and symmetry that goes with that bracelet. But that's okay. That doesn't mean that life isn't worth living.
Right.
You've got to maintain perspective that it's a miracle that you're alive. And I believe God made each of us to be here at this point in time. And that means you have a purpose.
Right.
And if you're busy focusing on that, if you're meant to have bracelets and all the good things that goes with that, meaning a healthy relationship, particularly a marriage, then I think that will reveal itself in time.
Okay.
Thanks again, everybody. God bless you. And we'll see you here again on True Story Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Sunday. God bless.